And joining us now is former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor. Ambassador Taylor, thanks so much for joining us again. You just heard that conversation between David Muir and President Zelenskyy. President Zelenskyy talked about how important a no-fly zone over Ukraine would be. Why does he keep pushing for the no-fly zone when the U.S. and NATO have repeatedly denied it?
He wants to be sure that we understand how badly the Russians are targeting and how clearly the Russians are targeting people in his country. This is tearing him apart, that civilians, Ukrainians, his citizens are being killed. I have had conversations with many Ukrainians, including senior members of the opposition that used to be the opposition, now totally united behind President Zelenskyy. So this is felt across the board. He is reflecting the anguish that they feel. That said, he is also proud of the work that his Air Force is doing. His Air Force is taking airplanes, Russian airplanes, out of the sky, but it's limited. It's difficult for him to continue to do that. So that's why he needs to be sure that we understand the danger that his people are in, and that we understand the importance of, for example, those fighter jets that we're hoping get, the Soviet fighter jets that can come from East Europe. It's that kind of work that we need to do.
And the Kremlin says that there are 3 conditions to ending the war. Ukraine must give up on joining NATO, recognize Crimea as part of Russia, and recognize the independence of the 2 separatist regions in the east. President Zelenskyy says that they may have a solution for these demands. What might that look like?
First of all, Linsey, it's very important that the president and that Ukraine have a solution to these issues. No one can impose their will and take sovereignty from Ukraine. Ukraine's sovereign. That means it gets to decide. President Zelenskyy gets to decide on how to respond to these. So on NATO, he has made it very clear. In fact, the Ukrainian constitution, Linsey, has NATO and the European Union in it as the direction of where they want to end up. So President Zelenskyy knows where he wants to go. He knows that it's a security arrangement that he is after. There are lots of ways to have a security agreement or a fence with other actors. There are ways to move forward that may or may not have NATO in it. So he may have some ideas, but the key point is it's a Ukrainian decision. It's a Ukrainian decision on that. On the other 2, on the business about recognizing Crimea and recognizing Donbass as independent nations, no Ukrainian wants to do that. No Ukrainian will do that. They recognize sovereignty over all of their territory. And Donbass and Crimea are part of that territory. There may be ways to think about that. There may be ways to deal with that over time. But I think in the end, he will not recognize it. We never recognized it, Linsey. We didn't recognize when the Soviet Union went into the Baltic states. And we have said the same thing. We're not going to recognize when the Russians go into Crimea. But again, this is a decision for Ukrainians to make. They are sovereign. They get to decide.
And more sanctions are now in place against Russia and President Putin. And more Ukrainians are armed and ready to fight. What does an off-ramp for Putin potentially look like to avoid him from escalating this even further?
So he might be able to listen to other international leaders. He might be able to listen to President Macron. He might be able to listen to the Israeli prime minister. He might be able to listen to President Xi in China. What he knows is the world is united against him. What he knows is he has lost all credibility. He is the only one who's responsible for this war. And he knows that. You talked about criminality, that he knows that that's there. So he needs to find a way out, and he can call a ceasefire. The first thing that needs to happen, Linsey, is a ceasefire so that Ukrainians are not being killed, so his own soldiers are not being killed. That's the first thing they can do. And then there will be discussions with the Ukrainians, and he can negotiate as well as he can. And that is the method. First a ceasefire, and then a sit down, probably with President Zelenskyy, but certainly with their officials below that in preparation for that kind of a discussion.
And really quickly, before I let you go, how likely do you think that ceasefire would be?
Linsey, I think there's a good chance for a ceasefire. We've had some conversations, as you've recognized, between Ukrainians and Russians on the Belarusian border. Part of that conversation, I'm told, has to do with a ceasefire. That could help. There may be ceasefires, temporary ceasefires for humanitarian corridors. So that's a step. Certainly a ceasefire for individual places could be a possibility.
Ambassador Taylor, always glad to have you on the show.
Thank you, Linsey.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.